Summarize why you believe Judge Berman vacated the 4-game suspension, George.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure.
I really believe that he obviously accepted the merits of our case. And more than anything, we had a lot of people out there, legal experts, sports business analysts, who were saying that we didn't really have a chance given the arbitration standard of federal courts. And we wouldn't have brought the case if we didn't feel like we had really strong merits, especially on the issues that Judge Berman ruled on yesterday. Notice, due process, the ability for us to review evidence, and those types of things. So the decision is a well-reasoned one, obviously, in our view. We're happy that we won, and today our job is to kind of take stock and look ahead and see what we can do from here.
Is this more about the process than it is guilt or innocence with Brady?
Yeah, it was absolutely about the process. And obviously we have our own views about Tom's innocence here. We don't believe that there was enough evidence to warrant a 4-game suspension, and we brought that up with the judge. And I think you heard the judge, at least in the 2 open court sessions, openly question the league's evidence on that matter, particularly in the Wells report. But this decision was about the due process, and most importantly for us, it was about protecting the collective bargaining agreement. And our collective bargaining agreement doesn't allow the commissioner the authority to do some of the things that he did in the decisions that we've seen over the last few years.
How do you change it going forward?
Well, it's up to the owners now, quite frankly. I mean, there's only 2 roads ahead here. Road number 1 is we continue on the same path and hope that the league office has looked at these decisions and said we have to take a closer look and adhere to some of the policies of due process and standards. But option number 2, which I've heard some of the owners already say as recently as Arthur Blank last night, is let's get together and come up with a solution that makes sense going forward. And obviously, either one of those 2 is fine with us. Our executive committee has said that they want neutral arbitration as part of this disciplinary process, and if we can get that, that would be great.
How close did you come to a settlement?
Not very, to be honest. We were a little bit surprised by how this whole thing unfolded, particularly after some of the things that the judge was saying in open court. We thought that they might be willing to move a little bit, and while the judges asked us not to get into the details of settlement discussions, we walk away with our head held high knowing that we made a good faith effort to try to resolve this thing without a decision. Ultimately, that didn't happen, and here we are.
But you would have taken a settlement offer?
If it was a reasonable one and one that Tom was comfortable with, absolutely.
But that is that he gets fined and what? He's obstruction of justice or what? Impeding the process here, but not saying that what was in the Wells report was correct. Is that as far as you were going to go?
I think I think Jay mentioned it on your show a couple of days ago. I think Tom, and rightfully so, was not interested in starting off a settlement discussion that led with a false set of facts. We never really got into a lot of details beyond that, and unfortunately, I wish I could share more. Maybe once this whole thing is resolved on appeal, I will. But the reality is, Tom wasn't willing to a false set of facts. And that was their starting point. And again, here we are today.
Do you think that they'll continue with this appeal process?
That's what they've said. I mean, they already filed the papers, is my understanding. But I certainly would think, or would hope, rather, that much like Robert Kraft did when he made the decision to just accept the penalties and move on for his club, that somebody in ownership will look at this and go, enough is enough, let's just move on. But it doesn't seem like they're willing to do that.
Should the commissioner be at the opener in Foxborough?
Not my decision. That's totally up to him. I think he's already said that he's not going to be there.
What was your reaction when you heard that he wasn't going?
Indifferent. I can tell you that we're certainly going to try to make it up there for the opener.
You're going to run out of the tunnel.
Tom is going to be carrying me and DeMorris on his back when he comes out of the tunnel. No, but seriously, that's something that the league office has to make. And on a more sober note, though, Dan, I mean, you wake up today, you look at the decision, and everybody looks at the victory. But it's up to us as stakeholders of the game now to pick up the pieces of what's been a pretty miserable, long, dragged-out, ugly dispute and try to resolve it. I mean, that's what our job is ultimately as a union and as a league office is how do we make sure that these disputes don't happen again? And I know our president, Eric Winston, is really interested in sitting down with the league and with owners to try to come up with a better system going forward.
But is it the commissioner or just the practice of the commissioner, everything, the structure of the office here that's flawed?
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of factors at play. I can tell you that the way that we operate is not dissimilar to the way, theoretically, that the league should operate. DeMorris Smith, the executive director, runs our office. He reports to Eric Winston, our president, and the executive committee. Our board of player reps are making decisions on behalf of our union every single day. And when we move forward with the understanding that all three of those groups are lockstep as to what our strategy is, what our mission is. I don't know what's taking place on the other side and where the disconnect is, but I can tell you that there's one group of people that can fix that at this point, and that's ownership. Once they're willing to step in and look at these issues critically and reach out to the players to see if we can resolve it, I'm not sure anything's going to change.
But you're not willing to strike over this.
Well, we're in the middle of a deal. This deal is not up until 2021. The collective bargaining process is ongoing, but this is not an issue right now that players are going to strike for. No.
Give me the one piece of evidence, for the lack of a better word, on Brady's side that was hard for you to refute.
Well, we made concessions about the ability or the inability, I guess, throughout the process of Tom's cooperation with the league office. Jeff Kessler pointed out during his oral arguments that we probably would have advised Tom to cooperate in a more prudent way throughout the initial investigation. I think that's a concession that we made to the league and to the courts. However, that doesn't mean that the league office can take that and create a set of facts that they don't know to be true and discipline a player without precedent. I mean, the only other player that we've had an issue with related to lack of cooperation was Brett Favre, and that was a $50,000 fine. So again, I think looking back on it, our job is to pick up the pieces now, look at where we can improve the process going forward so we don't have this sort of thing happen again.
Do you think the league purposely leaked false information?
I don't know, but I can tell you that A, it was out there, obviously, and B, it only benefited or it only harmed one person and one organization. That's typically the type of thing that I look at when I see information out there in the media via anonymous sources. Whether or not it was purposeful or not, it's really hard to say.
George, congrats, and maybe we'll see you in Foxborough.
Yes, and you're going to come with us, right?
I'll be there. I have to be there.
All right, Dan. Thanks for the time this morning.
All right, George Atallah, NFL Players Association.